welcome to my making adventure. This is my video podcast where I like to share all the crafty things I've been up to. My name is Catherine and I live in the rural Midwest with my husband and our 3 daughters. Today is November 26th, 2025, and is the day before Thanksgiving in the United States. And I am happy and excited to share the things I've been knitting so far since my last update in October. So this is my November update. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as my Making Adventure. And let's start with what I'm wearing. This is my Ranunculus sweater that I knit, I think 2 winters ago. Using Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool. There aren't very many colors, so it would be easy to color match this. It probably needs a good wash, maybe another deep pilling, but I did find like it pilled a lot initially, but it really hasn't pilled a lot too much since then. I wear this several times a week, just like as a pull on when I'm cold, and I love it. So it's my oldest sweater that I made for myself. I have finished 2 pairs of socks, and I'm not sure if I've shown either of them to you finished yet. I don't think so. I think you saw these as a work in progress. If you've been watching, I do have some new subscribers, so welcome. These are socks that I made for my son for his stocking at Christmas. He is an adult, so he has large feet. And this yarn was gifted from Dawn, who is a Crafty Dawn on Instagram. And I think it's Marathon 100 was the brand. And it does all the striping on its own. It's fun and bright colors, which my son likes. And then I tossed in a contrast heel. This is some extra yarn from my Margaret Henley. And so I finished those, and then I cast on a pair of socks for my other son, who's also an adult. And this time I decided to use the Stack of Books pattern, which is by Sock Witchery. And this is an opal sock yarn, and I love it. I love everything about these socks. Like, if my son is like, I will never wear these, that's fine. Like, I would not be upset. But yeah. So these turned out, I think they just look really lovely. The heel flap on these has a garter edge, which I was really enjoying. I think I've done one other sock with the garter edge. It's Hermione's Everyday Sock, but that has not your regular slip stitch heel flap, and I like the regular slip stitch heel flap because it's easier to knit, but I also liked the garter, but the way this garter was done was annoying to me. So next time I'll probably switch it up. Well, actually I already have. See that in works in progress. So yeah, I love these. There is, I think, 25 grams left over from this Marathon 100, and I might make the baby some socks with that. There were only 16 grams left over from this, so that's enough for heels and toes maybe for another pair of socks. But I'll have to figure out what will match well with that. So those are 2 finished pairs of adult socks ready for Christmas. And then the next thing I knit is already gifted, and it was like a little ear warmer for a baby. So we were going to a birthday party for a baby who was turning 1. Earlier this year, when we attended birthday parties for her sisters, I knit them purses, but I didn't really feel like a purse was a good fit for her, so I knit her a little ear warmer. I did it by starting wide on one end I did Jenny's Magic Cast On. Is it Judy's Magic Cast On? And I narrowed it down, and then I knit in the round. This is like in the round knitting then. I narrowed it down like the toe of a sock, but then I knit a really long section in the round, and then I widened again and did like a Kitchener bind off. So like this rounding, and then I just tied a knot to connect it. I think. Now I'm wondering if that's not what I did. That's not what I did. Scratch all that. Scratch all that. Hold on. It's been too much knitting since then. That was one idea that floated in my head. I did it differently. I knit the bow part by itself. So I cast on stitches, I decreased, and I increased, and I bound off. Just like Judy's Magic Cast On, decreased like the toe of a sock, knit for a while, increased, bound off with a Kitchener stitch. Then I had like the little bow part. Pretty sure this is right. Then I knit a tube for the ear warmer. Like I just cast on in the round, I just knit plain, and when I was ready to be done, I grafted it together. And then I tied the bow part around the graft so that that's not visible. Voila. Picture, hopefully you've seen it. And I also use the same yarn that my husband hand dyed for my Market Henley. And I held it single, so it's like fingering weight, but then since it's in the round, it'll be double over the baby's ears. Yeah, so I did that. I gifted it to them. I think they like it. And then I had knit the initial sweater, and I had some yarn left over, and at first I thought it was going to be enough to make another one, but it really wasn't. So I decided to knit like a hat and little boots to go with it, and I did that, and I gifted it. And so I don't have that, but the hat pattern I found was a free hat pattern, like baby kids ear flap hat. And so once I had knit the one to go with, I decided to knit one for my daughter also. And this is what I've done. This is with scraps of Swish DK. I've woven in the ends and I've blocked it, but I did not I did not cut the ends yet. I don't know why. I really thought I had, and then the other day I picked it up and I was like, oh, I hope these aren't bothering her, because she's been wearing it. So the first hat I made, for the strings, I did I-cords, but then I had to like weave in the ends at the bottom of the I-cord, and that was really difficult. It actually, and I had extra yarn up here. So what I did with these is I braided them, and I left the end from the cast on of each ear flap, and I braided that with extra yarn. And then I just tied them off to be like little tassels. So this, I had extra Swish DK in a variety of colors, and I was like using up little pieces of scraps. So I had green, blue, a red, a brown, and a gray. And I was so much enjoying using up those little scraps and getting them like all the way into the hat. There isn't a specific striping pattern because of that. I tried to do about 2 rows of the gray in between each one, but that was about it. When I made this hat the first time, I was having trouble telling like what the front and which side was the front and which side was the back. And it mattered because there was like 1, 2, or 3 stitch difference between the front of the ear flap and the back. So when I did it a second time for my daughter, I decided to try adding in like some short rows in the back to help me tell the difference. Like, so this is the back, and I can see that more easily. I think it would fit a little bit better. I'm not really sure exactly what I did. for the short rows, but I'm pretty sure I did German short rows, but I don't know like how far I went from the middle of the back and whatnot. But I think that that's a good fit for her. These ear flaps are like way too big. I don't think I followed the pattern very well. It's like knit. I don't need that, thank you.
Why don't you need it?
I don't need that, thank you. So you knit from here, and then it says to like knit until it's a certain length. And I think I always like round up. So it's like, oh, it's not quite, I don't remember. It's a free pattern. I think it was like 3.5 or 3.75 inches. It's not quite 3.75 inches, and I should have just stopped. I was like, I'll knit a couple more rounds. And so then they ended up being way too long. So like when I tie this under her chin, I'm like tying the ear flaps, not just the strings. But it works, which means that then these strings are like way too long for her. But we needed this hat desperately because she was ripping every hat off her head the minute that we put it on. She can still work this one off her head, but at least she's less likely to because she can't get it off as quickly. And so if we distract her, she forgets she's wearing her hat and she'll leave it on outside and keep her ears warm, which is wonderful. All right, coffee break. I also did a little bit of sewing the other weekend, and I had gotten some fabric at the library craft exchange, and I sewed up a couple little zipper pouches from that. So here's one of them, and it has some cute little flowers inside. This fabric is probably pretty old, but I think it is like so beautiful. And then this one, I love this. And it has, I don't know, blueberries on the inside. The last zipper pouches I made, I put interfacing in them, and these ones I didn't. I don't know which I prefer, to be honest. So, but I had zippers on hand to make those. And then this one is like, I'm not sure if I'm done with it yet. So this will transition to whips, but I had already made this like quilted front, and I interfaced that as well as what I chose for the back panel. This is also from the library. And then I just used the green fabric I already had for the lining, but what I can't decide is if I want to box the bottoms or not. And I haven't yet, because if I want the bottoms boxed, then I should have put a handle in. And I haven't sewn up the bottom. So I could turn it inside out and undo a seam and put a handle in. That's an option. And then I could box the bottoms, right? Especially if I'm gonna box the bottoms, I didn't want this seam done yet. But I found that it holds the pedal and cords for my sewing machine super well, which usually are just like loosey-goose on my shelf, getting in everybody's way all the time. And right now, that works really well, and it's contained, and I have it. So I might just let it serve this purpose and not worry about boxing out the bottom or adding a handle for using it for more of a project bag. So that's my sewing update. However, I do hope to do some more sewing in the future, which I'll talk about later. All right, on to whips. My oldest whip has not seen a lot of action, probably. I'm not really even sure if it's seen any. Oh yeah, look. I think since the last episode, I have knit 2.5 inches on the body of this. This is the Color Tip Tee by Emily Curtis. I followed the hack to make it a V-neck. And I have my yarn picked out for the sleeves and the collar and the bottom ribbing. However, all of that is gonna take some time and attention, and I wanna finish like my Christmas goals before I try to do that. So I've basically just been picking this up when we've been in the car for a long time and I'm not driving. Or if I have like no other round and round projects. It's not like super portable, like I'm not bringing this out and about with me unless I'm gonna be, like I'm not working on it unless I know I'm gonna be sitting for a while, just because it's a garment and it's fairly large now. I would like to transition to doing like the sleeves and the ribbing are done in like pops of color. And I have a beautiful hand-dyed mini skein set that I got from Stephanie of Texas Peach Knits. It's from Forbidden Fiber Company. I have this much left of the main color and I don't think it's too much. So I'm gonna move my progress keeper right now. My little log cabin progress keeper. So that for my next podcast, if I've made any progress, we'll know. I don't know how much this would knit on my garment, but I don't think it's too much. So part of me is like, just finish the yarn you have attached before you do anything exciting. But another part of me is like, if I did the exciting pieces, I'd be way more excited to finish this. Because like right now it's just gray. The fun is yet to come. So that is the color tip tee. And this main color is Cascade Heritage. So it's fingering weight and I'm using US 4 needles. And I'm making it short sleeves. There is a hack for long sleeves, which I think Emily has made for herself. And since I'm knitting it in the winter, you might think, oh, long sleeves. But I'm knitting it for summer wear. It's just carried over from the summer. I'm not sure when I cast that on, but it's been a whip for a long time because it's never been a priority. Okay, the next two whips I have I think are both new. We'll do socks first. This is yarn I got from the library at the Craft Exchange. I think that it's like acrylic, but like at a DK weight rather than like that thick worsted that Red Heart often is. And so I am knitting my 5-year-old a pair of socks. Initially I cast on 48 stitches, but when she tried it on it was too big. So I ripped it out and I cast on 40 stitches and I did 12 rounds of 2x2 ribbing, and then I'm doing the stack of books pattern, even though that is like an adult fingering weight pattern. I'm doing that here for a kid size with DK yarn. I was initially gonna do, everybody's been talking about the blueberry waffle socks, which is a free pattern, which is for DK yarn. I was gonna do that, but I really didn't like the way that it looked. I was like, just kidding. Not for me. I don't know if it's the yarn combination, if a different, like a DK wool yarn would look better, but I didn't enjoy it. I'm also using US 2, which is a 2.75 needle, which is like maybe a little small for DK socks, but I knit my fingering weight socks on a US 0, so I think it's okay. Yeah, so I'm on to the foot. I've done all the decreases. I'm just knitting straight on the foot for now. I'm not sure how much longer she needs them. I'll probably work on it a little bit more today, and if I get a chance, and have her like try them on again at bedtime or something. So I didn't weigh the yarn before I started using it, but I was like, there's enough here for kid socks. Thought maybe there'd be enough to make her sisters a pair too, but I'm not sure. And then the last whip that I'm working on is another stocking. This is the 4th stocking I've made. And this is for my 3-year-old. And I'm following the same pattern I made for my 5-year-old, which is from Knit Pearl Hunter. and it's part of the Christmas stocking collection. I am ready to do the heel of the stocking. So I've like changed yarns, but I didn't cut the contrasting yarns because I picked these back up again right after the heel, but I am not going to be able to keep them. I need to cut them. Sometimes I'm just too lazy to get out the scissors. Anybody else? So it's a short row heel flat or heel, and then I'll continue with a little bit of this color work pattern. I'm making some adjustments to the original pattern. One is that for most of the sock, I'm using US 6 needles, but when I get to the charted color work pattern, which will go up the leg of the sock, I'm going to use 7s. I'm going to hope that helps with my tension. You can probably, I don't know if you can tell, but right here where there's 3 rounds of color work, I didn't adjust and it pulls in. And I don't want like the whole color work motif on the leg of the stocking to pull it in. So I'm going to try going up to a 7. The pattern calls for 7s all the way through, but I like the gauge of this wool of the Andes with a 6. So it's like a tighter, more durable feeling stocking to me to knit it on the 6. The yarn is Knit Picks wool of the Andes worsted. The white color is Cloud. The pink is Blossom Heather. And the red is Garnet Heather. And I use these colors for my other daughter's stocking as well. The baby is probably not going to have a hand knit stocking this year, but she's not going to know. One of the, just a minute. So I think the thing that, one of the reasons it was taking me so long to cast on the stocking is that this child's name is slightly longer, and I was having trouble figuring out how I was going to get it to fit at the top of her stocking. And when I was knitting the initial sweater and I did the crochet chain, I decided that that's what I was going to try for getting her name on her stocking. So it wasn't necessarily as reliant on the like number of stitches across half the stocking. So I'm excited to try that when I get the stocking done. So that's kind of driving me forward. All right, those are my current projects. I'm not for sure. I do want to make socks for everybody for their stocking. So when I finish the pink socks, I'll have to cast on a couple other pairs of socks, but I'm working from like largest foot down to smallest foot. So that will make the next ones a little bit easier. I kind of am wondering if I should try to finish my color tip tee before Christmas, just because then it's done. But to be honest, I think as we move closer into December, my knitting isn't necessarily going to be my priority, but I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on my sewing. So I am thinking about trying to use the yarn I have before I buy new yarn, but also using the fabric I have because it's not well contained right now. I don't have a lot of space to store yarn or fabric, nor do I really want to, because when I have a lot of that kind of stuff, I feel like a lot of obligation to use it. So I have purchased this fabric on clearance to make my daughter's dresses. As you can see, it's still just a bunch of fabric. So I need to cut out these pieces and get them some dresses made. And I was thinking that that might be a good thing for this holiday weekend to work on. So stay tuned. I also bought this fabric to make myself another hinterland dress, which I'm wearing mine right now, and I love it and I want another one. It is really interesting because the fabric has like worn and is way more comfortable now than it was initially. Like it's even better than before. So this, I bought this green specifically thinking of Christmas time. And so I want to make 4 dresses by Christmas time, which means I need to put a lot of time and energy into my sewing. I also have just like a lot of fabric that I picked up at the library craft exchange or that I've been holding on to for other things, and I just need to figure out what to do with it. I have fabric to make an apron. I have little scraps to make like more zipper pouches or project bags. And I really just want to be doing that. I am, however, thinking about Ange from Yarn and Yarns, which is a podcast here on YouTube, holds a 12 cast-ons knit along, but I think it's like between Christmas and the end of January maybe, where you're like encouraged to cast on no more than 12 projects for the year. Now, I don't think that I want to have 12 projects cast on in that period of time, but I was kind of making a list of like things that I am either planning on knitting or I already have yarn to knit. And I think only one on the list I don't have yarn yet for, and that's like a sweater for my husband. And I'm planning on using fisherman's wool for his sweater this year. So I think I have like 6 to 8 things on the list already. So I might cast on, which is different. Usually I only have 3 or 4 works in progress at a time, but it might be kind of fun to cast on more, which is one of the reasons why I think it might be nice to have, you know, clear my needles before Christmas time, because then I could cast on something like on Christmas. I don't know if Christmas Day counts or not for the knit along. But if I could cast on something like on Christmas Day, and then a couple days later another one, and a couple days later another one, or maybe like Kirsty from Kirsty Knits and Sews was saying like maybe one a week, and then you can work on it like for a full week before moving on to something else. So some of the ideas I have though are like smaller projects, so like a full week it would be done, which isn't bad. What I need to do is see what Angela from Yarn and Yarns has as her guidelines, and then kind of look and see what I could do. But I'm feeling like I'm not really in a position to do too much dreaming outside of my yarn stash because I don't have room to put the yarn. So one of the projects I had thought I could cast on right after Christmas was the stocking for my baby, so that hers would be ready for next year too, because I already have that yarn. So yeah, other things that we've been doing in our life here, we have enjoyed a lot of sunshine and warmer weather in November. It does look like we've turned the corner into winter temperatures where we're going to be like freezing every night, not hitting the 60s and 70s anymore. But we did try to enjoy that weather as much as we could. And we're kind of getting ready to settle in for some winter weather and maybe even some snow this weekend. We have definitely found a good rhythm for our homeschooling this year. I'm homeschooling a kindergartner, so like it's not super intense, but I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. And I'm excited because like as we do different lessons, I did not like year plan. Some people do that and good on you. But I was just like, the lessons are here day by day. We're just gonna like pick it up and go. We're on track to finish like half of the math curriculum and half of the language arts curriculum by Christmas time. So I'm super excited about that. My daughter has also been doing a lot of speech therapy, and she has like completed working with one of her speech therapists and is only working with the other one now, and probably going to be finishing up with a second speech therapist like in early 2026. So that's pretty exciting because it like gives some time back into my days. However, my daughter, who is 1, is like pushing boundaries still. So like, are you sure I can't climb on this? How about now? I know you just moved me away from this, but what if I did it now? Would you get me down now? And it is a lot of repetitive like no over and over and over again. So that's what makes sewing a little bit trickier, but maybe I'll have to devote some after bedtime time for that. Usually I sit and knit after bedtime, but I could sew. I just have to come back downstairs instead of knitting in my recliner. I think that's the majority of what we've been up to. Thank you for watching, and have a happy Thanksgiving. God bless. Bye.